Well, folks, there's something to be said about a design that stays consistent through the decades. And with this knife that we have here in the Blade Boot Camp today, the SRK from Cold Steel, that is the case. This blade has been around since the mid-80s and has not really seen any sort of design changes or, left the line, because it's a design that is very multi-usable. That it can fulfill a multitude of different tasks, but also is just a very, classic, very reliable field knife design. Now, it's gone through some changes in the steel. They started out with carbon V. I had a carbon V model for quite a while. It was a great steel. Then they went to AUS 8 and the SAMI VG-1. Well, now in 2015, they've released just a VG-1. It's not laminated SAMI. It's just a hunk of VG-1 steel out of Japan, and just basically changed the steel. So in this video, we're going to take this through all of its field tasks, and what this VG-1 steel can do and how it compares to the older AUS 8 version. And we're just going to talk through the capabilities of this very classic, very reliable knife that's been around for decades, and just really talk about what are its capabilities when you're thinking about purchasing an SRK from Cold Steel and its limitations. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop out here, start using the VG-1 version of the SRK. All right, let's talk about the blade performance here on the knife. Now, first off, I'm going to talk about the VG-1 steel. Now, the VG-1 steel, again, is not the SAMI laminated VG-1 steel. That's a little bit different. And from talking with Cold Steel, since I've not reviewed a SAMI laminated version, this is very close to that, but there is going to be a slightly higher quality, as well as ability to resharpen a little bit easier with the SAMI versions that you're not going to see with just this hunk of VG-1. With that being said, this VG-1 steel is definitely an upgrade over the AUS 8 in almost every regard. It's going to have a lot longer edge retention from everything that I've seen. It's tougher in the sense that it doesn't seem to chip or dull or roll as quickly, so the edge retention is going to be a lot better, and the heat treat that they've done on the VG-1 is going to be stronger and tougher than what you've seen on the AUS 8 version for quite a while. So that's really nice to see that upgrade. The downside to that, with every positive, there's also a negative, So the negative would be that it is more difficult than the AUS 8 version to get a finer edge on it. So this is not going to be as easy to field sharpen. So if you are carrying this out in the field on a regular basis, and maybe you are, in the military or law enforcement, and this could be on you for weeks at a time, you're going to have to field sharpen this without having your full kit and full system in front of you. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult. You're going to have to invest more time, and it's a little more difficult to get the razor hair popping fine edge on it. You can do it, but it took me about double the length of time that the AUS 8 version did. So that is something to note when you're working with this VG-1 steel. And so now on to its capabilities. Now again, this is a field knife. This is a utility knife. This is not a bushcraft knife. This is not a survival knife in the sense of what, say, like an SE6 could produce for you, a Silent Hero from Tops, a Survive knives. Those are full tang that have exposed tangs. This is a full tang, but it's not exposed. That have higher grinds, and the blades are wider and they're a little heavier, and that's what those knives are designed for. This is not designed to, like take out in the woods and build a camp and process a ton of wood, and you're going to build a little fortress and a little lean-to and do all that type of stuff. It's just not designed for that. This is designed as a utility knife for combat. That's definitely one of the first thoughts with that clip point design and the thinner, narrower blade for stabbing and piercing, and it's going to do great with that. And that VG-1 is a lot stronger than the AUS 8, and it's going to handle a lot of stabbing and prying very well, and it's a great tactical knife in that sense of stabbing and sticking and prying. It's designed for that. And then with the short saber grind, makes it very strong again for some of those tasks, and it is going to do a good job with a lot of the slicing and in the sense of slashing that you may do with this knife, cutting through seat belts and nylon rope and, you know, paracord, those type of things. You have to bail out of your plane and you're hanging in a tree and you got to cut yourself out. This is going to do great with that, and some basic wood tasks. But knives, again, that I previously mentioned, maybe that have Scandi grinds, or they're, you know, like an SE6, those type of knives, they're going to do better with the really fine detailed work. This is not a food prep knife. It's not going to do very good with those type of tasks. This will do some basic feather sticks. I was able to do it rather well, but there are other knives out there that are just going to do a lot better, again, with those higher, wider blades and those higher, wider saber grinds. It's just going to be easier to do the finer work, notches, triggers, traps, those type of things. It can be done with this SRK, but it's not as enjoyable or as easy as a lot of the other knives that you may see out on the market that, again, have a wider, taller blade, if you will. So overall, guys, for a field knife though, which is designed to be a jack of all trades, master of none, and be able to definitely handle not only combat tasks, but also some, you know, basic survival tasks, this knife can absolutely perform and is going to be very rust resistant. That's the last thing I forgot to mention, that not only with the black coating that's holding up very well, but it's also with that VG-1 going to be really rust resistant for those of you in high humid environments, but also hold a great edge. This VG-1 SRK is going to definitely get the job done. All right, let's talk about the handle here on the SRK. Something to note real quick is if you own the Master Hunter, we've already previously reviewed the CPM 3V version of that. Those are the exact same handles. The SRK, if you own an SRK, the Master Hunter has the exact same handle. If you own a Master Hunter, the SRK has the exact same handle. So if you're digging the handle and you own one of those two knives, the opposite one will have the exact same handle. Some people were asking me that. I just wanted to touch on it. Now, this is a Craton handle, nice lanyard hole out the back. I usually do a little pinky lanyard right there so that if I am doing light chopping, I can just get a good little wrist action. It's lightweight, so you're not going to be doing any heavy duty chopping tasks with this. It would just be light limb clearing and brush clearing, you know, and that's about it. That's all you'd be able to do with this knife because of its weight. The handle is, again, made out of Craton. You got really nice checkering all the way along here. You got really nice ribbing on top and bottom and out the back there. You got that real nice guard, so you're really locked into place. You can see I wear large size gloves, and I got about an inch and a half hanging out the back there when I'm up against that guard. And I'm really glad that it doesn't have a top guard for the bush aspect. Now, if you are looking for a fighting knife and you're going to be, you know, stabbing bad guys, or maybe you're in the military, law enforcement, something like that, the guard is very good. You're very locked into place with the Craton. It's very grippy, so you're not going to slide up, but with the lack of top guard, it's just something to consider. I like the lack of top guard because I'm not going to probably be using this to stab any bad guys anytime soon. I'm using this much more as kind of like a hiking backpacker knife. I'm doing, you know, basic bush tasks with this knife, and that gives me the ability to put my thumb where I want. I'm not fighting against a guard. So just something to note, depending on the application of the knife, a tactical, that may not be quite what you're looking for. There are other knives out there that do offer a top guard. If you're looking at this just more as just an overall utility knife or backpacking or, you know, bush tasks, no problem. Then you do have this about inch blank spot right here between the guard and the edge that easily is able to be used as a finger choil. I can put my index finger on the opposite side of that guard, then I can get really aggressive and do those really fine detailed cutting tasks, and then I can just back up here if I'm just doing more, you know, not as controlled cuts, you know, if I need to do that. So overall, guys, this is just a fantastically simple, well-designed handle, and this is what you need to be looking for, guys. Something to note when we're talking about handles, just in general, for your own sake, regardless if it's SRK or any other knife, you want to be looking for, if you're going to be using this as a bush knife or, you know, just general purpose, as straight as possible, no crazy humps and divots and finger grooves and all that stuff. That is just asking for trouble. That's asking for pain. That's asking for not being able to fit in your hand properly. So you want as straight and simple as possible. That is going to be the most ergonomic. You know, I can use this knife in reverse grips. I can hold it in any fashion, and it's very simple and just fits fantastic. Fantastic. So guys, I'm giving this, obviously, if you haven't been able to figure it out yet, an ergonomic rating of 5 out of 5. Fantastic ergonomics on the SRK. All right, time to talk about the sheath here on the SRK. This is their SecureX molded plastic sheath. I've had great experience with their SecureX, not only on this knife, but other knives as well. And this is, I can't remember if I said it already, but this is not my first SRK. I own 2 AUS 8s, one Carbon V, and now this VG-1 model. So I've owned a lot of SRKs over the years, and they're great knives and really I've had great success with these sheaths. Good drainage hole down out the back there. Then you got tons of lashing points, tons and tons of lashing points all along there. And then you got this nylon webbing that's bolted in, screwed in here. These holes are set up to be able to lock into blade tech locks and molly locks and a lot of different ways to lash if you don't want to use this nylon belt loop. I really do like this nylon belt loop a lot though. You can see it rides very flush, almost flush with the handle, so the handle's not digging into your ribs if you're wearing it on your hip. You got a nice big loop there, so that's going to fit on all of your larger belts. And then you got Velcro and a button, which is very important that it has both. So you can easily open this up, put it on your belt, and then snap it on and take it off without having to take your belt off, which is always just a nice little plus. You can obviously swap this right or left, so this is a totally ambidextrous sheath as well for you lefties out there. Then you do have this extra little nylon button snap. It gets the job done. It's not mind-blowing or anything like that. And then you do have obviously the friction in there. You can hear a little bit of a rattle. It's just clicking back and forth up here, but it's very secure around the guard. You got a nice little thumb ramp right there. So you pull out, bam, you're good to go. And then you slide that sucker back into place. Snaps into place. Now over time, because of the craton, it will wear slightly and it'll be a little less secure in there over the long haul. That's what I've experienced, but overall this is a fantastic sheath, and that's just kind of the nature of the handle design is the craton. It will wear slightly, but it will be very nice and secure and click in there. Overall I love it for the price point and for what this sheath has to offer. It's a great value and a great designed sheath. I love it. So I'm giving it a 5 out of 5 on the sheath rating for the SRK. All right, how about quality on this knife? Now we're looking at VG-1 Japanese-made steel. Gotta love that. I love it when you see Japan stamped in there on the guard. Very cool and very good quality. I've used a lot of cold steel knives over the years. They perform well. They're tough, they're durable, and can really hold up to a lot of abuse, particularly like their triad folders. And there's no exception that now, this being my third SRK that I've owned over the years, not only in its overall blade design, but also the quality of the sheath. For under $100, you're getting great quality, and you're getting something that is definitely worth laying down the money for. You're not getting something that's cheap, or they skimped on areas of the design or materials, to try and make more money. I mean, they really put a lot of quality into these knives. So with that being said, guys, I would say that this is very solid, 5 out of 5 when we're talking about the quality of the SRK. I paid $85 on eBay through a reputable dealer, so that I was able to get this at a very good price, and that's right around the price point it's going for, anywhere 85 to 90 bucks on average on Amazon, eBay, all those other places. And for what you're getting with a better quality steel than the AUS 8 for sure, in the sense of its toughness and durability and edge retention, but also the Secure X sheath and just the overall design and everything we know from cold steel. This design has been around for a couple decades. I think 84 is, if I remember correctly, when this design came out, or 86. But anyway, since the 80s, the SRK has been around. So the fact that they just kind of change out the steels from time to time just means that in this particular model with the VG-1, you're getting really tough, durable steel that's going to hold a better edge than the AUS 8 version used to, and for only about $10 to $15 more than the AUS 8 version would run. So that's a great value, guys. 5 out of 5 on the value rating for this SRK with everything you get. Well, folks, it's time for us to bring this review to a close and give you my final thoughts on likability on the SRK. Again, throughout this whole video, you've seen it. I love this design. It's so simple, so classic, and that's why it's been one of the staple designs over at Cold Steel for decades. And I don't think it has they don't have any plans on taking this out of their lineup anytime soon, because it's a great seller, it's a great performer, and it gets the job done for utility tasks. And if that's what you're looking for, is a solid utility knife, I think the SRK in the VG-1 steel is a great option for you out there, regardless if you're a soldier, you're just looking for that utility knife, you're a hiker, backpacker, or you're just looking for maybe even a bug out bag, prepper blade, those type of things. This knife is just really going to perform well for those tasks. You're a bushcrafter, or maybe like a true camper who's going to be doing lots of food prep and feather stick making and notches and traps and those type of things. This may not be the knife for you. There's a lot else on the market that'll do better and perform better. So ultimately, guys, my likability on this knife for field tasks is a 5 out of 5. Love this blade, and I'm glad that I now have this VG-1 model. It's definitely an upgrade over my old AUS-8 model that I had for quite a while. So as always, thank you so much for checking out the channel. I really hope that this review has helped you out with your purchasing decisions. As always, check us out on all the relevant social media. All the links are in the description below on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and please subscribe, comment, like, share this video. And as always, remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.